So I was ordained by Sangharakshita in 1982, and he would get to know you, and he would say that there was some spiritual qualities that you had, and maybe some spiritual qualities that you may need to develop. And that would be normally how you would get your name. And you were never told, so you're never told what was what. But so I got ordained in a convent, an ex-convent in Tuscany in October 1982. And what he said on the night of the private ordination, because there's a private ordination and a public. So what he said on the night of the private ordination, when he gave me my name, it was a very strong moment. It was a very moving moment. It was like a shooting star had just kind of landed itself in my heart. And then when I it's a moment when you kind of find it hard to ask anything about what he said because it's so. I was kind of mumbling about different things, but what's the literal meaning of Amoghavajra is unobstructed diamond thunderbolt.
Wow.
So I was just asking about that, and there's two parts: there's the Amogha and there's the Vajra, and they were both terms that were familiar to me. So the Amogha is this sense of being unobstructed, and there's a Buddha called Amoghasiddhi, who sometimes actually is also called Amoghavajra, and he's a Buddha that's very much associated with the north, with midnight, and with fearlessness. And so I was very familiar with all of that because one of my order member friends then had a very strong connection with Amoghasiddhi. So that quality of fearlessness was something that I was very sort of familiar with as part of Buddhist practice. And the Vajra part is in especially sort of like Tibetan Buddhism, Mahayana Buddhism, the Vajra is a very common symbol. It's a very rich and profound symbol. And it's a very active symbol. It's a very, what's the word? I suppose you could say dynamic symbol. So I wouldn't go, it'd take me a long while to describe what Amoghavajra, the Vajra part meant, but it's a symbol for, that like a lightning flash, like when you're breaking through, the Vajra cuts through, the Vajra breaks through limitations, barriers. It can do it like demolishing a wall, or it can do it very subtly, like just rendering the fabric of, like maybe just a gossamer thin veil that you just need to see through. So it's a very rich symbol. And he went on to say that actually there was somebody in Buddhist history called Amoghavajra who was a very famous tantric practitioner, and he didn't go on to say much more about him than that. So that was my name.
Do you feel that your name is something? I suppose it must change, like something to work towards and something that you are. And how do you practice that?
I think for me it's been mostly something I've been moving towards. Such a strong name.
Yeah.
It's not very. I was hoping for some sort of delicate name, like something lotus flower or something, and then so I didn't get the name that I wanted. And it's for me, it's always been very much something to move towards. It's an aspirational thing. It's a practice rather than an attainment.
Right.
And something to reflect on. What does it really mean to be unobstructed? Do you know? Yeah. So I would do that in gross ways, like being very physically fit as much as I could. And I've been very much involved in sport, and there's a lot of overcoming barriers in disabled sport because I use a wheelchair, so there's a lot of developing confidence through just having that kind of, and it's quite a gross energy that you can cultivate through sport, but it can also be matured, I think. Yeah.
So I'm just interested to know, because your name is also the name of a bodhisattva, a Buddha.
Yeah, well, both.
That wasn't given as your sadhana then?
No, so that, I mean, a sadhana is almost, it's like a guardian deity sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
No, I had a very different yidam or figure that inspired me, and that was Amitabha. So they're quite different in a way. Quite different in a way. The red Buddha of meditation and love, and Amoghavajra is the green Buddha of action, but it's that kind of secret action, as it were. Yeah. So they were, kind of different.
So you were ordained by Sangharakshita.
Yeah.
And so obviously, did you ask for him to be your preceptor, or what was your relationship with
Well,
Sangharakshita?
there was only one preceptor at that point, and that was Sangharakshita. So this was at the time when Sangharakshita was doing all the ordinations. It's before he had delegated that responsibility to other order members. So there wasn't a choice. It was that's who did the ordinations.
And so he's the founder of the Triratna.
Yes, he's the founder. Uh-huh.
And what led you to that order? What led you to Triratna?
So I was in Glasgow. I grew up in Glasgow, and during my teens, I had various existential crises and interest in alternative things. And when I was growing up in the culture, it was the culture of like David Carradine and the Kung Fu television series and Bruce Lee, and so it's all very, But there was something, I think I'd always been looking for a bunch of people that were radical and doing something with their life. I think I was always looking for that. And then I was interested in meditation, learning to meditate, as well as the kind of Buddhist side of things. And I just saw a meditation poster. I'd seen a number of them on the walls around Glasgow, what we used to call fly posted, when they were just glued onto whatever surface was free. So it's a bit naughty.
Couldn't do that now.
You couldn't do that now. No. And so I'd seen these posters for meditation around the city, fly posted around the city, and then I just said to my brother, "Oh, let's go to that one." There was one that really drew my attention, and I wanted to follow up. So I went along with my brother and my cousin, and we turned up at the Glasgow Buddhist Centre, which was then in the west end of Glasgow, by the university, that kind of area, near the Botanical Gardens in Glasgow.
And so when you got there, what did you found the Triratna? It was
Triratna, yeah. It was we were called Friends of the Western Buddhist Order.
FWBO,
FWBO, yeah. So so I came across, and there was these bunch of guys who were very lively and active, and Sangharakshita just came across as somebody who had a great deal of spiritual depth to him, and who knew what he was talking about. And
so he was
inspiring.
there?
He wasn't in Glasgow, but what I'd gone along to was a class where we would meditate, and then we'd have a tea break, and then we would listen to a lecture by Sangharakshita on an old cassette recorder, which you just don't have these days. Yeah, so that's what we would do in a class. Right. So the most of the teaching was really about what Sangharakshita had communicated or said or written. And a few months after going along to the Buddhist Centre was the opening of the London Buddhist Centre. So a whole load of us tripped down from Glasgow for the opening weekend of the LBC, and that's where I was introduced to Sangharakshita face to face, and yeah, he was around, and he was the main person that was doing the opening. And one of the evenings he gave a talk, so I was there to hear him speak. And he had I just was so impressed by him and where he was coming from, as it were, because I was just really, in those days, I was really just trying to suss people out and what was going on, and because this was the age of cults like the Munis and Hare Krishna were very strong, and other things like that were just disreputable. And I just, yeah, I'd had a lot of bull, as it were. You had to distinguish between what was, but something really genuine came across from Sangharakshita. And the guys that I met were very friendly, and they were very engaging, and they were really living a life. They were really living a life that was exciting, as it were. They were the whole project of establishing the Dharma in the West, because this was the 1970s, and there wasn't really much Buddhism around. It was a very unusual thing to be getting involved in. Not much known about it. So it's a combination of that depth of Sangharakshita and the enthusiasm and still the depth of people that were a bit further along the path than me, for sure, but not as far as Sangharakshita was. So people I could relate to in a way.
So you're at the London Buddhist Centre, met Sangharakshita, and then what? So and then were you then
That's
ordained?
just for the weekend.
And okay.
That's for the weekend.
Then you made the choice to become ordained.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's quite curious. I won't name names, but I've been down at a weekend at Padmaloka, actually, and there was 4 of us in the car driving back, probably even my car, driving back from Padmaloka, which is kind of like a 10 or 12 hour journey. Could be a 10 or 12 hour journey. And we'd had a weekend down there, and there was an order member, one of the Glasgow order members, and 3 mitras, and he was just badgering us as to why we hadn't asked for ordination.
Oh, right.
Yeah. And he was saying, well, we can't be, the current order members can't be expected to do all the running of the centre forever, And
right.
So, but it was a bit of a badgering tone to it. I said, well, why haven't you? So it did make me think. And I thought, well, I don't know why I haven't. Maybe I just hadn't thought about it. So I did after that, not long after that, I asked for it. So I've been coming along for maybe 2 years by then, and I would be living in a community at that point.
So what led you to Ipswich?
What led me to Ipswich was, first of all, really Colchester. So I'd been in Glasgow. I'd lived in Glasgow for all my life, and a very good friend Harsha Prabha was in Colchester, and we wanted to work together to develop the centre, the Sangha, the community in Colchester. And I'd been in Colchester, so I moved from Glasgow to Colchester. I moved in 97, and that really introduced me to Ipswich. My cousin actually had moved to Ipswich I think in the 1980s, to be involved in the Buddhist community here. But I moved to Colchester first, but then from Colchester after about a year, I became the men's mitra convener for the men, both in Colchester and Ipswich. So I started to make quite a few connections in Ipswich. And then I think after being about 10 years in Colchester, one of the order members suggested, well, why don't I get a bit more involved in Ipswich? And in the way he put it, why don't you become the next chair? I thought, oh, that would be a good thing to do. Because Jnana Mitra had been chair for, I think by that time, about 11 years.
Oh, right, yeah.
So it's quite, she really needed to hand on to somebody new. She'd done it for so long, and it just needed, it just seemed that she was ready to hand on.
So by this point there was the Buddhist Centre in the Thorough Walk, is that?
Yeah, it was in the thoroughfare, just off of the Cornhill. And it was above the shop. And at the time when I was getting really more involved in Ipswich. Yeah, the centre was above the shop. There was a big Evolution gift shop on the ground floor. First floor we had the Buddhist Centre, and also we'd just taken over the lease for the second floor as well, and we started to run what had been called higher evolution activities, which were things that somebody was teaching Reiki, somebody was doing massage, there was some counselling work going on, some massage work going on, voice workshop going on. So the plan had been to try and start an alternative health centre. So I was getting involved just then.
And so it seems like quite a journey from Glasgow to London to Colchester to Ipswich. Did you ever have any doubts on the way?
Yeah.
How did you approach those? And the people you were with, did they come alongside you, or have some of those not continued?
I think my main doubts were really about whether I could fit into the movement, whether the movement was for me. And I think a lot of that was sparked by, because I use a wheelchair, places were just inaccessible. They weren't accessible, so that would be like having to figure out how to do things in a way that I could because of my disability. I think that threw up a lot of things, and I think I probably quite a faith type of person. So I if I suss somebody out, I'll have a lot of faith in them as a person, and what they're saying is not necessarily quite so important as what they're doing or what I pick up from them. So I was just very impressed with Sangharakshita. I don't think I ever doubted him, although I have had to understand what it means to spiritually develop. You can almost expect somebody to be completely perfect, or as if they're of a completely different type of person, but it's not like that, I think. So I think a few views about, or expectations about what spiritual development means, I've had to clarify and rethink.
And where has that led you?
Where has that led you? It's led me to here. So where has it led me? Well, it's led me to still being a very committed member of the Triratna order. And not looking for something that's perfect, and realising, I think from getting involved when things were quite small, you realise that people aren't perfect and institutions aren't perfect, but they can still benefit you, and it can still be beneficial, very benefit to be involved in them, and don't be a mug. Don't expect it to be perfect, because it won't be. But it may well be good enough for what we need, or even better than what we need. Sometimes what was going on in Triratna would be too much for me spiritually. I thought, I can't practice at that level. So having to find my own level of practice and my own way of practicing. And also some things would happen between people that just clearly weren't weren't coming from it wasn't the best of them that was getting brought out. So I've seen plenty of that because I've lived with people and worked with people in the Buddhist context from quite early on. So I didn't always expect. It takes quite a lot these days to shock me.
And you've spoken about benefits, to being able to recognise the benefits of something that may be not perfect. What do you think the benefits of Ipswich Buddhist Centre have had on the town of Ipswich?
I mean, I think it's the people that aren't perfect. I think the practices and the ideas and the principles, they're all very sound. It's just how we go about doing it.
Yeah.
That, and just to clarify that. The benefit to the town, well, I think having a place where people can just turn up and come across something as profound and as expansive as Triratna and Buddhism, the Buddhist tradition in the form of Triratna, is just an amazing thing. Because when I was first getting involved in Glasgow, there wasn't a small town. There wouldn't have been any Buddhism, but there is now. And we've got our own centre, our own place, and people can just rock up and walk through the door or walk past the door a few times to pluck up their courage, have a wee look in through the window and see, yeah.
And then hang out by the books.
And then hang out by the books if they want to, yeah. Or even talk to somebody if they don't, So I think, and we live in a very materialist culture. It's a very flat culture, and it doesn't take people's depths and possibilities into account, I think. It really doesn't. And some of our experiences as a human being, it goes beyond the senses, it goes beyond the material world, and a lot of our culture doesn't recognise that, and so people are a lot stressed out because of that. They haven't got that. The deeper aspect of themselves is not met, so I think we offer that, and we are following through. I think there's a lot of integrity in the Triratna Sangha, in the Triratna community. So when people go along there, they meet somebody who is doing their best to practice, and not just going through the motions. And I think there's a great depth in the Triratna community that people can come across and be inspired by, or just be met by, and that is just wonderful. Yeah, it's great when you see that happening and just see people changing. So people come along to the Buddhist Centre and you can just see it in their faces. Even in the course of a night, an evening, they might change. And on a weekend retreat that we run over from Friday night to Sunday, just after lunch, you just see people clearly changing. And then when some people come along for years, and you see them becoming quite different and much happier and much more themselves, and that's great to see. Yeah.
So, what would your advice be to someone who comes, like me, and Mitra goes to the Ipswich Buddhist Centre, and how to deepen their practice and how to take their practice to the next step?
Maybe the most important thing is to be motivated and to make a bit more conscious what your motivation is. And if it's something that you really want to do, treasure it. Treasure your inspiration. Don't let cynicism undermine your inspiration. So I think, and maybe, I think you can work on your motivation just through reflection. What do you really want to do with your life? What do you really want to do with your life? And do you want to get at the end of your life and look back and think, oh, I wish I'd done that, or I wish I'd tried this. Don't live your life like that. Don't wait for it to happen, but take the opportunities that present themselves, and opportunities do present themselves, and just do it. Yeah. So follow your own intuition. The things that you think will be good for you, learn what things will really be good for you, will really excite you, your own inspirations, your own particular inspirations. So yeah, I just really do that. And have an adventure. Enjoy yourself and have an adventure.
Great.
Spiritual adventure. Because if it's not like that, then it's not Buddhism.
No.
Yeah. It's not making you happier, more content, more deeply content. And if it's not, and if other people aren't noticing that kind of thing in you, then it's probably not really working.